Very good morning, everyone, and also good afternoon to everybody's tuning in to Blu Hope Big Blue Day. And today, let's kick off to the first session where we will be discussing about Blu Hope Shark and also Shark Stewards, where the discussion will be talking about protecting ocean apex predator, Mr. Aaron Gekoski, and also David McGuire to have this discussion ongoing. So David and also Aaron, over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Nora. So welcome to the very first webinar of Blu Hope's Big Blue Day, live on 8X Pixel. Today, as touched upon, we're going to be speaking all about sharks of the coral triangle, which is the past, present, and future, and what that might look like. My name is Aaron Gekoski, also known as Bertie. I'm going to be your moderator for this session, and I'm also going to be joined by David McGuire of Shark Stewards, as well as Simon Christopher and Monica Chin of Blu Hope, Hazel Oakley, hopefully, I know she's been having a few problems getting in, of TRACC, Cara Majerus of SORCE, Indonesia, Hugo Lapeyronnie from Reverse Freediving in Timor-Leste, and Birgit Hermann of Blue Ventures in Timor-Leste. We're very fortunate to have Mr. David McGuire with us, who is a shark expert, shark extraordinaire, marine biologist, conservationist, general all-round good bloke, and a hell of a good-looking chap as well. David McGuire, over to you.
You're the good-looking one.
Not at this time of the morning, I'm not David, it's 2 a.m.
Well, this is truly an international Big Blue Day, and I want to give a shout out to Simon Christopher for putting this together, Blu Hope, and Monica Chin. This is a lot of fun to meet or re-meet several of my friends here on this panel now that we're all kind of hunkering down wherever we are during COVID. I'm in San Francisco, unable to come to Asia the last 6 months. Bertie's in the UK. We have friends in Timor-Leste, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So we're truly an international conservation effort working together to protect our sharks in our oceans. I've been working in the Coral Triangle since 2006 with an expedition with the California Academy of Sciences, where we did a large biodiversity expedition and a film called Reefs to Rainforest. And we discovered over 340 species, but we saw very few sharks. Now it really opened my eyes what's going on in the area that has the highest biological diversity on the planet, marine biological diversity. 25% of all species live in the Coral Triangle, and yet there are very many threats that urgently need to be addressed. So I'm the director of Shark Stewards. We're a nonprofit based in Berkeley, California, and I'm going to share my screen here if you can see that. And let's see. So we are part of a larger NGO called the Earth Island Institute, which is international, and we work all over the world on different projects. But our project is to work in shark conservation as well as marine protection. So I was invited in 2013 by Simon Christopher and also Cynthia Ong of LEAP in Malaysia to come and learn and dive and try to help work on shark conservation. I'm a marine biologist, a diver. I've been studying sharks for about 15 years. It wasn't my early training, it was more environmental toxicology. But I became a de facto filmmaker when I learned about shark finning on an expedition across the Pacific in 2006. I quit my job, I made this film and founded Shark Stewards because I learned about this urgent threat, this dire threat facing shark populations globally, and that is loss of habitat, but primarily overfishing and shark finning. So we produced a documentary. We actually translated it into 6 languages, showed it in China, and started working in the United States to curb the shark fin trade and consumption, which we did in California. We just passed our 14th state, and we have a bill in the US Congress to ban the sale, trade, and consumption of shark fin in the US. Hopefully the next administration will be more receptive to ocean conservation. We've been working on that for 6 years, but in the meantime, US consumption and trade is very small compared to the flow that goes into Hong Kong and on its way to China. But also Malaysia and Singapore are large traders, the second and third largest traders outside of Hong Kong of shark fin. I'm also a writer, and I just produced a new book on shark science for kids I'm very proud of. I've written other books on sharks, but we're starting this series because we work with kids, trying to influence them to love the oceans by starting to love sharks and turn the misconception we have of sharks around, because they're not all big, fat, and scary like this beauty I took near my home, and I've been working on white shark conservation since 1993, and they are coming back off the Northeast Pacific. So let's go across the Pacific to the Coral Triangle, where all of that biological diversity, all that amazing diving, and all of these great partners are located to protect this incredible biodiversity, including silky sharks, thresher sharks, whale sharks, and a huge diversity of other fish and invertebrates. I was introduced with Simon to go to Sipadan Island, which is one of the few protected islands in Malaysia, off the Semporna region, where I just had a great experience with Birdie. We did a series called Borneo from Below with Simon and Scuba Zoo to what we call fun-servation, educate, and try to have fun along the way, protecting what we love. So truly an extraordinary place. In some places, 100% coral cover, 6 of the 7 species of sea turtles, hundreds of species of reef fish. I mean, it's just this incredible diversity and richness and beauty of marine life. But it's increasingly at risk from overfishing, from cyanide fishing, and from fish bombing, which is a huge problem throughout the Coral Triangle, destroying this fragile and this sensitive and beautiful habitat. So we started working with local partners. Steve Oakley of TRACC, the Tropical Restoration and Conservation Center in Pom Pom Island and Semporna region, doing coral restoration, doing shark surveys, doing ray surveys, doing fish market surveys, and working with a group that we helped found called the Sabah Shark Protection Association to bring in awareness, bring in support by the government to protect sharks, because Malaysia is a huge shark fin importer. It's a huge shark fin consumer, primarily also through tourism. Not so much this year. The sharks maybe get a little bit of a break, but there's a lot of shark fins being consumed in this small island country, as well as shark consumption and export and bycatch. So there's Steve. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he left behind a huge legacy with his laboratory, with his writings, with our work doing fish market surveys, and his passion to protect coral. And he has a legacy in his daughter and son. And hopefully we'll hear from Hazel with TRACC in a little while. Motivating youth, hands-on conservation, fun-servation, restoring reefs, and trying to change minds, hearts, and policy to protect this Malaysian ecosystems. Of course, we have global threats from plastic pollution, which I think Simon will touch on. Not only in the Coral Triangle, the US generates something like 33 million tons a year. Most of that goes into landfill, only 9% recycling. Of course, if you live on a leeward side of an island, you see those plastic bottles and wrappers wash up on the shore. It impacts marine life, it kills coral, and it breaks down into tiny particles that actually end up poisoning larvae and eventually or ultimately poisoning humans. So there are many risks to this fragile environment. With our partners in the Sabah Shark Protection Association, I wrote this report with several recommendations. One of them really to focus on protecting hammered species like hammerheads, manta rays, many of the species that are protected by CITES but are getting killed and traded. And also some of the most favorite sharks and rays for divers to see. This work is being pursued through the Sabah Shark and Ray Initiative, led by LEAP and other partners, to try to pressure the Sabah government or work with the Sabah government and fishermen to reduce shark bycatch, which is huge in the shrimp trawling fishery, but also long lining and other destructive practices that are severely compromising these apex predators and large filter feeders like whale sharks and manta rays. So flying over to Indonesia, we joined in with our partners at SORCE, and Cara Majerus is here with us, and she'll tell you about the lab that she and her husband Michael and her 5 children founded. And we were there at the beginning, fortunately enough, in 2018 to dive, to do some surveys, to work with the project that we're now starting with the University of Singapore called Roots to Reefs, to do restoration and protection of mangroves all the way down to the seagrass beds and the coral reef, but also to protect hotspots that contain sharks. And she was just telling us that they're diving and seeing great hammerhead sharks, manta rays. These are the disappearing species that bring in so much value through dive tourism. The gift that keeps giving if we keep them alive, but only $100 or so to a fisherman for fins, but as much as $500 to $1,000 a kilo in the shark fin market. But we know that these sharks are more important alive than dead for many reasons, because as apex predators, the large sharks regulate the ocean ecosystems. They maintain the balance of the lower trophic levels, and they keep the ocean healthy and clean. So you really should be afraid if you don't see a shark, not when you see a shark. So they have a diving and education program that Carl will tell you about. It's a great program. I hope we all get a chance to go there and visit and dive again. Beautiful waters, there's dugongs. It's an area that also really needs protection, but it has a lot to protect. And there's the local shark, Willie, who's been diving. Now he's probably twice that size. So SORCE, like TRACC, and also like our friends in Timor-Leste, work with local communities to educate, to engage, and to participate in the protection and the restoration of this incredible place that they are fortunate enough to be living in. So there's Timor-Leste down there. We have 2 friends, Birgit Hermann from Blue Endeavors and Hugo. I won't put ketchup on your last name, of reverse diving, and they'll tell you about how incredible Timor-Leste is. I was fortunate enough to be able to visit this small island nation, meet the people, work with the Association of Marine Tourism to start generating support through ecotourism and maintain the beautiful fragility, complexity, and biodiversity of these coral reefs. Atuaro Island has this network of marine protected areas that are culturally and locally supported. Well, a lot of partners talk about that, but there is a huge diversity of fish, the largest ever described in any place in the world, but also vanishing shark populations, primarily from a really large fishing effort. Sea Shepherd documented this 3 years ago, I believe it was. Tens of thousands, if not 100,000 sharks were wiped out off the reef, illegally violating a permit, but also killing fragile species like hammerhead sharks and some of the large rays. So there's a lot to be work to be done, educating people, but also trying to intervene and interdict with the shark fin trade. And that's what Shark Stewards does. We're on the ground. We're also working in Asia, in China, educating Chinese, but also trying to stop the flow of these fins, particularly CITES protected sharks, or under the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species, because these sharks are disappearing. 90 to 99% of some species, like oceanic whitetips, like scalloped hammerheads, and now increasingly like these giant rays, these bow-mouthed guitarfish, because they are the king of the shark fins. So there's a lot of work to be done globally. Sharks are really under attack, but there is a great Blue Hope. We helped set up a Hope Spot with the ATM in Timor-Leste with Dr. Sylvia Earle. We're doing that in San Francisco here in our National Marine Sanctuary, our shark sanctuary, trying to protect these beautiful sharks and reefs across the Pacific so that people like this can go diving and pay their money to support local alternative livelihoods and protect our oceans, because there's a lot of money there, and it's increasing every year once we get rid of this pesky virus and we can put our real masks on and go diving and get to work and protect 30% of our ocean by 2030. So thanks for listening. Dive in with us, volunteer, save a shark, donate to one of these nonprofits. We're all nonprofits. And I want to thank my sponsors, grant supporters, and friends. You can find us here on Facebook, and we're Shark Stewards Everything. Just look for us on the web, ping us, volunteer this summer if you can. I can't wait to see my friends. So we're going to show a short film with my pal Bertie here, and this is Frontier Borneo and some of the work that Simon's produced a few years ago. And I look forward to doing another one with you soon. Cute.
Fishing and selling sharks in Borneo is legal.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. These are such beautiful sharks alive.
Here, in the fish market, evidence of the shark slaughter.
Today was probably the most amount of sharks that I've ever seen.
Marine biologist David McGuire and shark activist Adric have a plan to keep these creatures safe.
Go get the sharks.
But relocations can be a gamble.
They're not looking good. Uh-oh, he may not make it.
Marine advocate Alex Yee is on an undercover mission to get evidence that turtle eggs are being sold illegally. He believes the selling is organized by a network of related gangs.
What is it you're selling? Nepal. When you put up an OK sign, that means they are selling the turtle eggs.
The gang senses danger.
How much is it?
No selling metrics.
Thank you so much, David. Is it possible that the viewers are able to watch the whole film anywhere?
Simon, do you know you're muted?
Sorry about that. It's I believe that it is online, but it's not. It gets replayed, so need to have a look at. What we'll do is we'll follow this up with an update on when we can see the whole series online. So watch this space. We'll keep you informed on the next replay. Thanks.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Simon. And I'm actually going to be speaking next. I know it's a little bit unconventional for your moderator to also be a panelist, but I'll going to be talking just a little bit about my work as an environmental photojournalist. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it too.
Okay, so yeah, I'm an environmental photojournalist. I've been covering stories of human-animal conflict for the past 10 years around the world. I work on stories such as the exotic pet trade, the illegal wildlife trade, deforestation, all the fun stuff that gives you nightmares and keeps you up at night are the sort of projects that I work on. And I got into this field about 10 years ago when I left behind a corporate life in London and then traveled to Africa with a cheap camera and underwater housing and dreams of being a kind of marine David Attenborough. And then I met a couple of guys who were making a documentary about shark finning in Mozambique, and I spent a couple of years working with them. This image actually is still one of the first and one of my favorite shots that I took. So yeah, I spent a couple of years and seeing the devastation along Mozambique's coastline. You got 3,000 kilometers of coastline. Chinese who have paid $300 million. Sorry, I didn't mean 300 kilometers of coastline. You've got 3,000 kilometers of coastline. Chinese have paid $300 million and taken all the fishing rights there. And now, as a result, there's no sharks in these waters, and all the local fishermen are struggling. The ecosystems are collapsing, and it's generally a bit of a nightmare. So it was actually after I'd been in Africa for a few years that I met Simon Christopher, and I met him in a cold and rainy Starbucks in London. And Simon persuaded me to go out to Borneo and to present series for Scuba Zoo TV. So I worked in Borneo for about 4 years, heading up shows on Scuba Zoo, trying to take these kind of quite serious issues about conservation, and like David touched upon, making them fun, making them accessible to a wider audience, because we all have so much negativity in our lives. We're bombarded with it that actually we need some light. It's kind of like a subliminal education. So people are watching the shows and they don't realize it, but they're being educated at the same time as hopefully being entertained. Which brings me to the film that I'm going to show. So this was actually the film, I think, that caught Simon's attention. So it was a documentary, a very short documentary that we did in Africa about, it was called Shark Selfie. And it was a long time ago now, it was like 8 years ago when selfies were just becoming a big thing. And it was produced for Epic Television. And it was actually a two-part series. The first part was, it was about following an underwater photographer trying to get like a perfect magazine cover shot at the sardine run. But unfortunately, we had terrible visibility at the sardine run. So then we slightly changed the show, and it was all about getting the perfect selfie in front of sharks. Yeah, if we could show this film now, Nora, we could. So the film, you can start from about 1 minute and 45 seconds in. You don't need to see the beginning bit. So all you need to know is that we've tried to get a perfect magazine cover shot of the sardine run. We failed, and now we're in Aliwal Shoal in South Africa, and it's about getting a perfect shark selfie. And it might feel gimmicky, but I'll explain a little bit more about that at the end of the film. Nora? Yeah, Alfred, if you could check about 1 minute 45, you can start it.
Final day out to sea, and today's the day. We're going to find them. We're going to get those sardines. Woo. Yeah, it didn't happen, but unfortunately, that is the nature of the ocean. That's the nature of my job. So we're going to go to the shark capital of the world instead.
On the drive over, Chris came up with a new plan and decided to break it to me over a cold beer.
So let me get this straight. What you want me to do is take a selfie in front of a load of sharks, right? Yep. Yeah, I thought so. I'm starting to question the sanity of getting a selfie in front of a load of feeding sharks. Let's give it a go. And we found them. The elusive, mythical sardine. It might be bait for the sharks, but it's a start. It's a little bit different to the bait ball I was expecting to see. Oh, yeah, I can see at least 3 or 4 black tips right underneath the boat. And it's amazing. Everything I've ever been taught as a child was to avoid shark-infested waters. Now I'm about to jump in the middle of them. I've just jumped in the water, and as you can see, there are sharks everywhere. There's even more beneath me, so I'm going to go down now and check them out. I was just taking selfies of this shark.
Bit the buoy line right behind me.
I don't know if I got a photograph. It might have been too close to me, but that was a great bit of action. And I think it's okay, I've just seen it swim away now.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that gives you a kind of good idea of the mission. I think some of the challenges of environmental filmmakers or photographers is actually getting people to pay attention to your work. And a lot of the time you worry that you're just kind of preaching to the converted. So by using something like a social media stunt or a gimmick like this, what it did was it allowed me to talk more widely about shark conservation. And this got a huge amount of media press. It was on, it was all over the newspapers, all over the British press. And it allowed me to say, actually, look, I wasn't in any danger, but did you know we kill 100 million sharks every year? So yes, it might have been a bit gimmicky. And, there's other work that I'm a lot more proud of that was seen by a lot less people, but it helped to get the message out there. So yeah, that's I think just a good tip for kind of using the media is to try and get your message out to as many different people as possible. I'd now like to hand over to Simon Christopher, who's the founder of Blu Hope. Simon.
Thank you, Bertie. Thank you. Great to have you here, and it's really fabulous having this session, kickstarting a big day about ocean, Big Blue Day. Lot to celebrate, and the really exciting thing is we're about to turn the year into UNESCO Ocean Decade, and the world has essentially started to realize that we need to focus on ocean, we need to listen to the ocean and start protecting ocean, because the more than half of the air that we're breathing as we sit here and talk about it and watch actually comes from the ocean, and a lot of people don't realize that. So out of sight is out of mind, and what we're trying to do is to really bring the importance of ocean into everyone's lives, and the biodiversity is really the most important thing. Biodiversity, whether it's ocean biodiversity or terrestrial biodiversity, is really the air we breathe and the water we drink. And every time we lose a species, or a fish bomb is thrown, or a shark is taken, or a big drift net takes its toll, we really are taking a bite out of our future. And so that's really what this day is all about, is putting a spotlight on the ocean towards the end of the year and celebrating ocean. And so hopefully we can get as many people watching this and are starting to connect and realize how important it is to every one of us. So I think just to sort of highlight, Blu Hope is essentially part of the inspiration was sort of taking the words of the legendary Sir David Attenborough. He just launched a film online on Netflix called A Life on Our Planet. So David, we've been lucky enough to have him over here in Borneo. I'm here in Kota Kinabalu. This is where Blu Hope is starting. Together with Timor-Leste, our efforts in Timor-Leste, we are essentially focusing on these last bastions of biodiversity. And on the panel with me, I have my co-founder for Blu Hope Sabah, Monica Chin, who you'll be hearing from soon. Great to have her here. She's another incredible activist and diver and ocean lover and communicator. And she has been diving around the coast of Sabah and communicating the needs of the ocean for a long time. So we'll be hearing from her a little bit later. Also from Sabah, we have Hazel. You heard about Hazel and her father Steve, and what they've got going with TRACC is just incredible. And the work they've been doing down there is really a microcosm of what we need to be looking at sort of globally and across Sabah in terms of studying. So this UNESCO Ocean Decade is essentially all about research and science. Out of sight is out of mind, and you can't really start protecting something until you know what you've got to protect and where it's going to be there, and whether it's going to be there next month or if it's there at the end of the year. And the thing about ocean, a lot of the wildlife and the sharks particularly, they're migratory. So you can try and protect an area of ocean or a marine park, but the reality is the animals you're trying to protect actually move out of that area, and so they're then at the whim of any fishing fleet. And that's one of the things we've got to do, is understand ocean. And Timor-Leste, we have two of our great friends from Timor-Leste. It really is one of the last frontiers. It hasn't been discovered, and we'll be hearing from them about what hopefully we can get going in the next decade, ocean decade, with Blu Hope and working together with all of our partners over there. But the fact that it was nominated and approved as a Hope spot with Her Royal Deepness, Dr. Sylvia Earle's Mission Blue, is really testament to what's ahead there. And so really looking forward to hearing from them and Timor-Leste. I think that's enough from me. What I'd like to do now is just to pass the baton, so to speak, to Hazel, who is, she'll tell us where she is. She's actually in West Malaysia now, but she can tell us about the great work that's going on and what's happening now. Despite COVID, they have an incredible team still doing. They're a constant. They continue their incredible work down in Semporna, one of the last bastions of sharks and marine life in Sabah. So I'd like to introduce Hazel from TRACC. Over to you, Hazel.
Thank you, Simon. Can you see me yet?
Yes, we can see you. There's one thing we do have a film called Save Sabah's Sharks, which I'd like to play after you speak, just because this is a video that we did a few years ago, and the story still stands, and there's a lot of work, a lot of people doing different things, doing some great things, but obviously COVID has kind of fragmented the group movement. But if we could maybe just hear what you're up to first, and then we'll play the next video. Thank you. Over to you, Hazel.
Okay, so at TRACC, we're working on a big reef restoration project. We have a reef that was totally destroyed by bomb fishing, down to the rubble. And obviously that supports no biodiversity. Our first biodiversity survey had an index of 0. And what we've been doing at TRACC is rebuilding our reef, literally from the coral bedrock up. And as we plant the coral, we bring in more species first at the lower trophic levels, and then gradually getting higher and higher up the food chain. So we get small fish, and then we get medium fish, and then we get big fish. And then the video that you're about to play was a few years ago with David and I, where we felt that our ecosystem was about ready to reintroduce some sharks. And so we introduced some brown-banded and white-spotted bamboo sharks, and a couple of coral cat sharks as well. And I'm very pleased to say that those populations are alive and well and doing really, really well on Pom-Pom. The populations of those species are growing exponentially. And more impressive than that is having rebuilt our ecosystem literally from the ground up. We've finally last year reached the point where we confirmed that we have a healthy population of juvenile blacktips foraging in the shallows. So that's really the first of the big sharks. And so from this point on, we're waiting to see that, hopefully we might get a white-tip reef shark next, or a grey reef, some of those more iconic species. TRACC isn't very far from Sipanan, which of course has amazing biodiversity, particularly in terms of sharks. It's extremely well protected. But the protection for sharks is very restricted around Sipanan Island. And so sharks that are migratory come outside of the protected area, and we're still seeing those in our ongoing fish market survey. Particularly benthic sharks, of course, the guitar sharks and the big rays that Dave was talking about, they come up all the time because they're a byproduct of prawn fishing. Prawn fishing. But we see a lot of black spot-tail shark, sickle fin sharks, weasel sharks, lots and lots of small benthic sharks still coming up in the fish market surveys. Do you want to play the video now, please, Simon?
Yeah.
The shark relocation story was a big gamble for us. We were taking on a project that was actually genuinely the people who were organizing it didn't quite know how it was going to go. The Sabah Shark Protection Association and TRACC, the Tropical Research and Conservation Centre, together with Dave McGuire from Stewards, were taking on a project that was brave. Moving sharks, particularly small sharks, delicate sharks, is difficult, and they had a hard time. They'd organised an oxygen pump for the transfer, and that broke down just before it happened. The refrigerated vehicle they were planning to carry the sharks in wasn't available at the last minute, but we couldn't hold off. The sharks had to be taken to the island or they would have died. In transfer, we had to just put them in plastic bags, and unfortunately the ice that we surrounded the bags with melted, and the bags had small holes we didn't realise were there, so they started poisoning the sharks. And Dave was frankly quite devastated when he realised that we might lose the sharks. And from a filming point of view, I was worried about the animals, and I was also very worried about the piece, because frankly, when someone turned around and said, "So what are you going to do if all the sharks die?" I just looked at them and I went, they're not going to die. They're not allowed to die because we're not going to have a story, which is a very practical way of looking at it. But to be honest, the way I felt was looking at Dave's face when he thought he was going to lose, particularly one of the sharks who was in pretty bad condition. He was on the point of tears, and it made me just really realize how much he cared about these animals, and it made me just honestly want to cry too. When we finally made it to the island and we managed to move the sharks into some fresh water and they were revived really quite quickly, it was just the biggest relief. I think being part of this project, such a successful project, was a real privilege for Frontier Borneo. The nice thing is that the project is still carrying on, and they've managed to move 50 more sharks to Pompon, where they're now safe.
Thank you so much, Hazel. Yeah, fascinating short clip from that Discovery documentary series. And again, we're going to be posting details later on how you can see the full documentary. And I would urge anyone to check out the work that TRACC are doing. I've been there to Pom-Pom and filmed with the guys, and it's incredible. It's an amazing place, and they're doing really, really solid work for conservation. So next, I'd like to hand over to Kara Majerus, of SORCE Indonesia. Kara, welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I'm going to share a few slides that I've put together just to kind of explain what we're doing out here, because we're quite a new venture. Like David said, we only just started up. We actually got to Indonesia in 2019. So let's see. Okay. Can you see that, everybody? Cool. Okay, so as we've said, I'm the managing director of SORCE, and sorry, it's not working. Okay, I'll just talk about it because the PowerPoint doesn't seem to want to move through the slides. So essentially, we are based in Lombok in Indonesia. There's a small peninsula off the southwest corner called Sekotong, and that's the region that we're located in. It's recently, in 2018, been made into a marine protected area, a national protected park, but at present, there's no enforcement yet. So the fishing is very much still happening. And so we've set up SORCE essentially in partnership with a number of local NGOs, with the local government, and also the local community, to try and improve the marine life that we're finding in the bay. So in terms of the peninsula, there's kind of the northern region, which is very sheltered, and we're actually surrounded by a number of islands, quite small islands with shallow reefs, and we're seeing a really good diversity there, despite a lot of historic dynamite fishing. There's a lot of reefs that have had kind of similar to what they've seen at TRACC, where the fish bombing has reduced large areas of the reef to just rubble, and there's nothing left anymore. But fortunately, there are some other areas that are in much better condition, and we do still have quite a healthy population of white-tip reef sharks. Every now and again, we're finding another species will the odd black-tip reef shark, a few coral cat sharks, bamboo sharks, but there's a lot less than there should be. There's definitely gaps, and it's quite clear that overfishing is still happening. On the southern side of the peninsula, we have much more pelagic, wilder waters, and an area called Belongus Bay, which is currently not protected. It doesn't fall within the parameters of the marine protected area, but we're hoping to get that changed, hopefully in the next few years, because Belongus Bay is incredible. It's where all your big schooling elasmobranchs are appearing. We've got great and scalloped hammerheads schooling together in numbers of 50 plus. We've got mobula rays, like bentfin devil rays, reef manta rays, and we even get kind of whale sharks and so on passing through on their migratory route as they go up between Lombok and Bali. So it's a really incredible place. Unfortunately, at the minute, the kind of natural protection from the swell and the waves is stopping fishermen from going there because it's just too dangerous. But it's not going to take long, particularly with the tourism increasing in Lombok as it is, for larger fishing vessels to realize what's there and to start going out there. In Lombok, we also have one of the biggest shark markets in Indonesia. It's a place called Tanjung Luar on the southeast side of Lombok, and they are mostly large longline vessels that are landing sharks there, and we're getting 30 to 50 sharks a day being landed, sometimes more. It's huge quantities. There is a bit of monitoring of what's being caught going on there, but not a great deal. And in terms of the actual restrictions and regulations, they've had over 80 species landed there, and only 3 of them out of all the species in Indonesia are actually restricted. You're not allowed to catch them, and they're whale sharks, giant guitar sharks, and oceanic manta rays. Everything else you can catch. So we see blue sharks there, hammerheads there, tiger sharks, bull sharks, pretty much everything else that you can think of, including a lot of juveniles and pregnant females, which is devastating to see. As I said, we are working with the local community. That's a huge part of what we do, trying to get them involved in the management of the park that we've got here, and get them to join in with all of the activities that we do. And that's everything from debris collection to try and reduce the plastic issues that we've got here, to coral reef restoration. So we have some big coral planting programs going on at the minute, trying to restore areas of degraded reef, and then monitoring obviously shark populations and lobbying for actual enforcement of the regulations that are supposed to be in place in this new protected area. As David mentioned, the latest development that we've had has been a collaboration with Shark Stewards and National University of Singapore to launch this Roots to Reef program to try and connect mangroves with seagrasses with coral reefs where one or more of those habitats have been eradicated, so that the nursery kind of system for sharks can be put back together and allow for a more healthy environment for them to actually be, because about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were a lot more from kind of the historic data that we've been given access to, and they were using the north of the bay as a nursery site quite frequently, some of these shallower reefs, and they're just not as many anymore. During COVID particularly, we've had a big problem with increased overfishing. The area that we're in, being so close to Bali and the Gillies in the north of Lombok, is hugely dependent on tourism. The number of of jobs that are specifically and directly linked to the tourist industry is huge. And so with travel being restricted as it has been, there's not been any people here, and so a lot of people in the local community have lost their jobs and their employment, and as a result they've almost invariably reverted to these non-sustainable forms of making a living and feeding their families, one of which is obviously fishing, with being such a coastal country. So there's been a lot more fishing going on, and not just recreational fishing, but we're seeing more and more of the commercial fishing and the big nets coming out that we just hadn't seen for the first 2 years that we were here. So that's something that's been quite worrying. But we're hoping that as COVID lifts and we get the Reefs to Reef project off the ground and start to improve the enforcement of the marine park, that gradually the sharks will start to recover, and we'll be able to protect the incredible diversity and species that we have down in Belongas Bay as well.
Thank you so much, Cara, for telling us about some of the work that you're doing out there in Indonesia. And now if we could go to co-founder of Blu Hope, Monica Chin, very fervent conservationist, one of the most passionate activists you could come across. Monica, always lovely to have you on these.
Thank you so much, Bertie. Hi, David. Thank you. Good to meet everyone here in this live session. My name is Monica Chin. I'm original native Borneo from Sabah. Thank you for such a humble introduction from Aaron just now. So I'm a co-founder of Blu Hope. We thank you for Simon for invited me to come on board and accelerate my passion.
Oh, I think we've just lost Monica. Monica, you're back, yeah. But you're muted.
Sorry, the connection is crazy in Sabah, in Borneo. Anyway, okay, I'm a scuba diver, avid scuba diver, been diving more than 20 years, I think, can't remember. And it's very, it's very sad to see, especially my playground in my hometown, named Kota Belud. If any one of you in Borneo familiar in Sabah, then you know where is Kota Belud is. The Mantanani Island is one of my childhood playground since I'm, I think, 8-9 years old. So my experience in Borneo is I swim with dugong, more than 20 dugong in Mantanani Island. At that age, I don't know what is a shark is all about, but I love to see dugong. And my father love fishing in Borneo, in my hometown. So I was exposed to oceans at a very, very young age. And there's one funny and freaking experience that, you know, when my father fishing, so when we are kids and we got seasick or want to vomit, so my father just catch us and throw us to the sea. So that's the traditional medicine. And if I'm not mistaken, I was 11 years old when my father, because my father said, you better jump to the sea before I throw you out. So I jumped down from his boat, and guess what? I stepped on top of a whale shark. So that's really freaked me out. I thought that I was eaten alive, stuff like that. But you know, when you love something, you will protect what you love. So my experience in Sabah, I left about 10-15 years for work in Kuala Lumpur. So I came back here. I told myself, by watching all the things gone extinct, been destroyed, with the plastic pollution, with the less education and awareness to our very beautiful local community here. So I told myself I need to do something and I need to speed up, very, very speed up before everything gone. And I can't share it. I can't show to the next generation in Borneo. So today we're talking about sharks, Blu Hope Sharks. So my experience for the past 6 years, 7 years, that I really, when I really went back to my hometown, all the places from the tip of Borneo until the south of Borneo, Pulau Tiga, that area. So I did talk to the fishing community. I'm glad that I have that, I have that energy. I have that easy connection with the local fishermen and local coastline community here. That's the winning part. That's the lucky part of me. So when I talk to them, like, do you guys eat shark? I might eat shark when I was kids, I have no idea, but my dad say, yes, you did eat shark. So when I come to know this animal is getting extinct and getting horrible, and our local need to do something now. So it come to my mind that I need to talk to more people, not up to the state government or political people, politicians, things like that. But first I was thinking I need to talk to the local people. I need to talk to the fishermen, like all my father's friends when I was young. So I did. In Sabah, in Borneo, as my experience engaging, talking, visiting the local community here, they are very lack of education about apex predator, about our ocean ecosystem, and not enough awareness, like how compared to Western country, and especially in Southeast Asia now, it's quite especially in Bali as well, other Southeast Asia countries. So our local community coastline is still very lack of awareness and education. That's what I see, and seriously needed. So the second thing is the engagement with the community. There is not much local champion, local community like myself, me, that really really going down to the root to talk to this kind of community. So we need that. We need more Borneo, we need more Sabahan to stand up and do this. We have to protect our home over here and those apex predators. And the next is all this local coastline, local community, local fishermen. They are they are not. I can say about 90% of them are not aware that in the shark meat is contain heavy mercury and it's not healthy, it's not good for pregnant women. So when I share with them, they were like, what? Is that real? I say, yes, it's real. I show you the YouTube. So I have what I'm doing is, because I'm not a marine biologist, I'm not a shark expert, I'm not a scientist. So based on my knowledge as a scuba diver, I have a range of collection information that I can share with the community and easily understand what I want to tell them. Because if you speak English, definitely no. If you speak news journalist bahasa here, definitely they don't understand as well. So that's how I show them. That's how I educate them here. And when talk about coral, 90%, 95% of them, they said coral are plant, coral are rock. So they didn't know the coral is animal. So this is the thing. I slowly found out that we really need to educate and then talk to them and create more awareness down ground, not via social media, because most of them don't have internet connection. So these are really needed in Borneo. And they didn't, of course, they didn't know what is apex predator, why sharks are so important to our reef and ocean ecosystem. This is another thing that we really need to highlight in Borneo. So when I talk to them, they said, I will ask them, do you eat shark meat? Yes, it's very nice. So when I told them about the mercury content in the shark meat, they were freaking out. So when I talk about, do you know that shark is very important to our ocean ecosystem and the coral reef? They said, no, coral is a rock. So that's really funny for me at first, but yeah, that's few of the point that we really, I really hope that Blu Hope Blu Hope Sharks can have enough budget, enough sponsor, enough supporter from global that I can, together all of us here, we can go down ground and do all this activity. And there's
thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much, Monica. Sorry
okay.
to butt,
no problem,
butt in.
no
We're
problem.
just running out of time a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
But thank you very much for telling us a bit about your work there and some of the projects you've been doing to educate Sabahans. So now, as Simon mentioned earlier, we're very lucky to be joined by a couple of panelists from Timor-Leste. If I could go to Hugo first. Hugo, if you could just tell us about some of the work that you've been doing over in Timor-Leste.
So my last name is Lapeyronnie.
I was going to give it a go, but then I just thought it sounded so much nicer when you say it rather than in my bad English accent.
All good. Yeah, guys, so I'm Hugo. I'm a scuba diving and freediving instructor. I've been working in Timor-Leste since more than 6 years now. I've opened reverse freediving 2 years ago. And yeah, basically, you know, I've done most of my career in scuba diving and in freediving in Timor-Leste. And I think it was Simon was saying that before. Yeah, it's a bastion of biodiversity. Again, the health of the reef is pretty amazing. We have, again, like a lot of biodiversity and all. Birgit will be able to talk about it later on. But again, what we have to remember in Timor-Leste is what we have discovered so far is incredible. We have just like crazy things. We can just go in the beach and dive with dugong. We can few months in a year go diving with blue whales, sperm whales, and many other animals. But again, Timor-Leste is a frontier, and most of the places of Timor-Leste have not been discovered yet, I think. So basically, yes, what we are doing here outside of our professional lives and all is, trying to discover Timor-Leste and the waters and many stuff that there is here. And there is just plenty to discover. I think Birgit will be able to talk to you about it a bit more because she's a manager of Blue Ventures. They are doing a lot of studies here. And I think she will be able to talk a bit more about it. But yes, of course, Timor-Leste, as we say, is one of the last frontier, one of the last big bastions for biodiversity and all. And we are thankful to David and Simon, of course, to really come here and starting to get a bit more interested with this place. Because again, it's very fragile, this ecosystem. We already, for example, now starting to have more roads and things. And just, for example, sometimes if they're not respecting some basic environmental rules and putting a lot of sediments and all in the water, they already have killed some of our reefs. And this is in just in a few years' time. So yes, what we have here in Timor-Leste is incredible, but we are really we are in urge to put some more rules, to put some more environmental protections and all here, because I think we can't afford to lose a place like Timor-Leste at this moment. Now I will hand over to Birgit. She will be able to talk a bit more about all of this.
Thank you, Hugo. Bon dia from Timor-Leste. So yeah, I'm the country manager of Blue Ventures. We are a marine conservation and fisheries management organization and have been working in Timor now for about 5 years. And our vision is to empower the coastal communities to manage their own ecosystems. So that is a combination of understanding what is actually happening, so through community-based monitoring programs, but then also assisting in the establishment of alternative livelihood programs for fishing communities. And that is really where the cross-section of marine tourism and marine conservation comes to play. So we have been working with communities to establish homestays and other programs that are really dependent on the tourism. And then this money will, some of it will be channeled back into marine conservation initiatives. And then the other part is the research. It's all citizen science, it's community-based programs to monitor the fisheries, the seagrass, and now we are currently setting up a reef monitoring, a community-led reef monitoring program as well. And I think it's really exciting times in Timor-Leste because there are locally managed marine areas in place, and we're the 12 communities we work with are very eager. Some of them have already established community-based LMMA, locally managed marine areas. Some are interested in it, and I think with this combination of having also the tourism industry showing an interest in connecting the conservation, the community interest in the industry interests, in having a unified voice and having a marine tourism association there. This is really the exciting part here, where there's a lot of potential. As other speakers said already, and Hugo alerted, we know there is a huge biodiversity here. In 2016, there was a study done around Atauba Island, our only inhabited island apart from the mainland, and it's the highest biodiversity worldwide. We have this amazing 3,000-meter channel between the mainland and this island, where once a year in the southern whale migration, the big whales come through. And this is also bringing a lot of nutrients, a lot of deep water is coming up, and that's why we have a very unique a marine environment here, and we're not as much yet affected by phenomena like coral bleach, because there's constantly this cold water stabilizing the overall ocean temperature. But and we're not a bit unknown, so tourists don't know us. And now with COVID, it's even more like less known, less reachable. But there are the first steps in place. Last year, the Marine Tourism Association was established, and that is just the tourism industry, the community, and the conservation organizations are joined. And that's our first achievement was to get us classified, categorized as a hope spot through Mission Blue, the organization that Sylvia Earle is spearheading. And that is really, I think this is the exciting part. We're heading in the right direction, but we need a bit more support, and that's where I appreciate we're talking about sharks here. I mean, this ecosystem is full of a lot of components. So while organizations like us, we are more looking at the fisheries that are being consumed day to day in a legal way. We're looking at the seagrass, we're looking at the reef health, and so far no one is studying the shark population. So we know very little about it. We know if there are sharks, that's a tourism interest. So the healthier the shark population, the more chances are that actually tourists come to places, and that the tourism industry can support as an alternative livelihood the fishing populations. So that was just a quick overview, and I know we're already quite at the end of the session. What we wanted to show is just some visual impressions. So when we launched last year the Marine Tourism Association, people like Simon also helped to put together a film to show visually of what is happening here, what is here available if you make the journey to get here. And so I would say, please push the play button.
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an ocean explorer, a scientist, and founder of Mission Blue. I want to salute you for what you are doing in Timor-Leste, for celebrating your ocean, taking care of your ocean, and sharing it with people from all over the world. With hundreds of blue whales swimming past Dili every year, families of sperm whales and many different species of dolphins so close to shore, and dugongs just 5 minutes away from the international airport, you have the most extraordinary and precious blue world in your hands. Truly incredible. Thank you for what you're doing. Tourism actually serves as a powerful education, causing people to be aware of why they matter, why the ocean matters. Timor-Leste is, of course, also blessed with tremendous oil and gas reserves. And while there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that your whales, dolphins, and dugongs are much more precious, their combined value must be realized and shared across all the different marine stakeholders through proper ecotourism as quickly as possible. So, while you have some really big challenges ahead, by working very closely together through ATM, TL, with multiple stakeholder collaboration and planning, with your combined strength and unity, Timor-Leste's blue world will surely stand out above the rest and get proper protection that it really needs and deserves. I want to assure you that you have mine and Mission Blue's full support, and I very much hope to experience Timor-Leste's amazing blue wonderland myself soon. You truly are reason for hope. Thank you.
Okay,
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for that, Birgit. We've actually run a little bit over time. We're 10 minutes over time, so apologies for that. We're not going to have time for any questions. Before we wrap up, Simon, is there anything that you would like to add?
Thanks, Bertie. I think if there's any reason to run over it, it's sharks. We couldn't spend enough time talking about sharks. They deserve all our attention, and it's fabulous having sharks to kickstart our story for today. And thank you so much, everyone. Please check in the next few sessions. They're just as empowering, they're just as important. It's all connected. It's connected, the blue world, the green world. It's relevant to everyone. So hopefully, I know it's a Saturday, but hopefully you can tune in. Thank you so much, all the panelists, for your wonderful contributions. Great to hear from you, David. Can't wait to get you back over here and big up sharks and oceans. So with that said, thank you very much, Bertie. Thank you, everyone, for listening in, and we'll see you all again very soon. Take care. Be safe. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.